Today we're doing a channel update, answering in excessive detail the question on a few of your minds. Am I quitting 7 Days to Die? Now some of you are asking that because I haven't uploaded a 7 days video in over a month. My last 13 videos have been Subnautica 2. Now to the vast majority of YouTube that doesn't matter, because nobody is the main character on this platform, and you're probably not as noticed as you think you are. But my hardcore viewers who do watch every upload and wait for the next one might care. So this is for them. Now I'm not going to bury the lead. No, I'm not quitting 7 Days to Die. But let's talk about why there's been such a massive gap. You might think this is about my personal feelings towards the state of 7 Days to Die since Alpha 21, but it's actually not. I've been dismayed with the game for quite a while and covered it anyway, so it'd be weird to suddenly pretend I need to like a game to make videos on it. No, the main reason is just mathematics. Subnautica 2 came out and opened to 500,000 players, and it was pretty lucrative to make content on the game during that period, but I tend to ignore 95% of new releases that are genuinely maybe 2 big games this year that I care about, and that's Subnautica 2 and the new Halo. I won't be covering Halo because have you met the Halo fanbase? But the real issue isn't the presence of popular games, it's the genuinely dead state of 7 Days to Die. This is the current Steam chart for 7 days. Console players matter, sure, but the Steam player base is a good indicator, and it is at a 7-year low. Bearing in mind this game has been in development for 13 years. All of the momentum built since COVID has just shit the bed. Player counts generally indicate interest. Interest generally indicates how well a video might do. I'm using all of these protective words because accurately predicting YouTube views is an exercise in madness. You'd honestly have an easier time becoming a fucking necromancer than a view predictor on YouTube. Trust me. 3 hamsters, 0 videos predicted. But for 7 days right now, low players equals low interest equals low views, and low views equals I can't fund my crippling Monster Energy addiction, and without that, I can't make any videos, which means you don't get to watch anything. Plus, I kinda just didn't want to. It's been my main game for 5 years. Fun fact, up until this point I have made 232 non-Let's Play 7 Days to Die videos. It's a feat of human stupidity that I ever managed to say that much about a rather shallow game. I have a few ideas left before 3.0 drops, but making Subnautica content made me realize how insanely hard I was working for very little reward in 7 days. The truth is, the channel can't grow on 7 days alone, which I said at the start of the year. I'll get to that in a moment. But for about 2 years and 3 months, I wasn't really focused on growth. I was focused on clutching at what I thought worked. The Let's Play era. The dark times. I tried to replicate the success of my 65-day daily uploaded Alpha 21 series, and I thought I had to do that because it's pretty much what everybody else does in this scene. Hey guys, welcome to episode 1 of playing this fuck-ass game for the 93rd time. It gave me nothing. It slowed my channel, but I thought that was how you made money as a YouTuber because I was new to making any money. I'm 25, just for the people who haven't been keeping up on that, so a few years ago I was definitely in the territory of dumbass who doesn't know how to make money, and I realized around about the end of October last year that I was wasting my fucking time. Revenue was going down, growth was slowing down, and I had to make a change. And I did. When I finally stopped making Let's Play content and went back to the content I made before the channel blew up, it blew up again. Funny that. I wonder if those two things are connected. When I started out this year, I wanted to dedicate 25% of the effort I put into making content every week towards non-7 Days to Die content, and I didn't quite do that exactly, but I have nonetheless made 49 videos this year, and so far 43% of them have actually been non-7 Days to Die content, and that is the largest percentage my channel has ever seen over any extended period, and the channel has never been better. And the reason that I want to grow the channel beyond 7 Days to Die is primarily for security. 7 Days to Die will die soon. It might not be in the next update, but it will be in the next couple of years, and I don't want my channel to die with it, so I need to find other games to make views on. And as I was looking for other games and looking at how these other games perform, I learned something about concurrent player counts that contradicted what I understood previously about that general interest thing I told you earlier. And it is still generally true, but there's something I call cycling audiences. 7 Days to Die has almost no cycling audience. The vast majority of people who are playing it month over month are these huge chunks of people who play for extended amounts of time, perhaps even most of the year, which gives 7 Days to Die a inflated look on an interest level, right? Because while it always has a very small, consistent player base, the actual broader amount of people that actually play 7 Days to Die and are actually interested in it is extremely low. And people will cite the 20 million copies sold thing from 7 Days to Die, but I think it's so important to remember that a huge amount of those 20 million copies that the Fun Pimps love to flash on people's faces came a long time ago, and this game has not aged well. It is not a game people return to fondly every year. It's a game that people come back to check if it's any good yet, and when it's not, they go away. That's why it has such big spikes every time there's a major update, and then such huge dips immediately after. And my theory is that live service games hold players hostage through this continuous promise of the next big fix and the next big feature being around the corner. And 7 Days to Die has essentially adopted this hostage audience technique by never delivering on anything. And that means that there isn't a huge player base out there, but there is a relatively high concurrent player base that is small and dedicated, which is bad for me. You see, Subnautica, the franchise, not specifically Subnautica 2, I don't want you to think this is about like a recent game success and me thinking that it's always going to be like that. I've studied the performance of Subnautica videos over the course of the last like 5 years, and what I've learned is that Subnautica, the franchise, is a bit of a revolving door. People drop in for that 2-week phase every year, every half a year or whatever. They watch a ton of videos on it and they leave. Over a year, vastly more unique eyes see Subnautica content. That's why you can see so many random sub 100k channels with million plus view Subnautica videos, whereas 7 Days to Die videos with 1 million views are so rare I can probably name half of them off the top of my head. Diversifying gives the channel security, and so what I want to focus on the other games that I bring into the channel is games that are like this, sort of single player games that at any given moment appear to have a very small audience, but through analysis of trends over time on the YouTube videos surrounding them, you can find the real general interest of the game and the real potential of your videos you make on them. Games like Ark have lots of videos with 1 million views. Games like Skyrim or Fallout have lots of videos with 1 million views. But the thing about Skyrim and Fallout in particular is the individual games in those franchises at any given moments usually have sub 10k players on Steam, but so many people come in for a couple of weeks of Skyrim every year, or a couple of weeks of Fallout every year. Personally, I'm in a Skyrim run right now, actually. I've been watching a lot of Camelworks videos, RIP to him, by the way. His videos are still amazing regardless. His videos have actually been very useful for looking at the performance of things like Skyrim and other channels like him for things like Fallout and stuff. And now, I'm not saying I'm going to immediately pivot to be an Elder Scrolls and Fallout channel. I don't know if those are good fits for the channel, but games that have a similar long-term huge audience like those, rather than games that necessarily just have high player counts. That said, to my dismay, Ark has both of those things. It has a higher base player count and a much bigger cycling audience. But I really don't want to be an Ark content creator because Ark Survival Ascended is shit, and I don't know if people really care about Ark Survival Evolved anymore. I need to make some content on that game and find out. That's the only way. It's the only thing we can do. Which brings me to my short and long-term plans. What does June look like? Well, first, a little bit of context. In May, I took exactly 1 day off. Oops. This is with a spreadsheet I keep that tracks how many days and hours I work, by the way. Yes, I just decided to ignore it. Don't worry though, I've taken the last 3 days off, so I'm good. But in the next couple of months, 3.0 is going to be dropping, which means I'll have to go really hard on that as well. So while I have a minute here to breathe, I'm doing some lower effort, high return listicles and knocking out a few sponsored videos to build up a buffer of revenue to cover the loss in ad revenue. And making sure to take at least 2 days off every week, if not more. Now, if 3.0 comes out and doesn't meet expectations, and let's be real, the last probably 4 major 7 Days to Die updates haven't. It feels like to me we might see the permanent decline of 7 Days to Die. It might not be able to recover if this player graph dips even lower. I don't I don't know if it ever comes back from that. It shows me that people have lost trust. It shows me that people are starting to truly not give a shit. Because when you see the 7 Days to Die player base fall like that, that's alarming for the reasons I told you earlier about like the hostage audience and the sessile nature of them, where they don't really move. They just keep playing 7 Days to Die. They play a lot of it. They play it every week, every month. So when you see a huge hit in the resting point of the 7 Days to Die player base, something has gone very badly for 7 Days to Die. And if 3.0 doesn't fix that, 7 Days to Die isn't going to be a game worth covering for me anymore. But I will, even if that happens, still cover the major updates to 7 Days to Die as a courtesy. Even if it's a hit to the channel when I do the major updates, which would be so ironic. Either way, I'm always going to do that. But if it survives and returns and has a nice growing, flourishing, gradually going up player base again, then I'll keep covering it. But it will never be my exclusive game ever again. I'll probably keep trying to make content for it every week though. Long term, it's more than about games. I have shown myself, I have proven to myself, I can make content on other games. I just have to find games with big audiences, not necessarily even big audiences right now like Subnautica 2, but like just games that have these cycling audiences that have lots of people coming in and make the right content in them. And I've found the right content. You'll notice some of my Subnautica videos shit the bed spectacularly, and some of them are my best performing videos ever. And I have analyzed why, and I know which ones are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones. But that brings me to the point of beyond expanding games. We can expand games easily now. That has been my quarry for 3 years. Now we need to expand formats. Right now, I make information-driven content primarily. Tutorials. Something called listicles, if you're not familiar with that. It's, whenever you see a video that's like top 10 this, that's called a listicle because it's a list article. I also make news content. Mostly educational stuff. But the problem with that is it always has a ceiling. Because, to be honest with you, a lot of people simply don't seek out informational content. I mean, when's the last time you saw a tutorial or a news video that wasn't about like GTA 6 with 1 million views? You just never do. I need to get better at story and lore driven content. Now, specifically, in case that's not clear the distinction there, story content is about narrative content. Things like challenge videos where you tune in because you want to see me tell the story of the challenge. And lore driven content is kind of like informational content, but it's just more driven by just kind of sitting and watching and you just enjoy it, right? Think of things like Camelworks' videos. I brought him up earlier. That is all informational, but it's not useful information. It's lore. It's stuff you just want to watch and learn about and then immediately forget, right? It's just fun to watch. It's entertaining. That's what I would say lore-driven content is. And Subnautica, for example, has a lot of that potential. 7 Days to Die has none of really either of those. I don't think there's very many interesting stories to tell in 7 Days to Die right now because there's no actually interesting challenges to tell in 7 Days to Die because the game has no endgame content. The game has no real difficulty worth talking about. It's a very easy, annoying game for me right now, and I wouldn't be able to make an interesting story about it. On that note, 100 Days videos, while they are an absolute cliche pestilence on the survival genre, they do get the most views in the genre. And that is because they have narratives that keep people watching and because they have extremely long watch times, which YouTube rewards. The problem with all this is that storytelling is fucking hard. I can make a world-class instruction manual, but telling a story would require me to learn a new skill, which I hate doing because I live off of pure talent. No, but really it's annoying and time-consuming. It also requires personality. Now, legally speaking, I have a personality. I'm a lunatic desperately trying and failing to appear sane. It's like watching Homelander try and solve a Rubik's Cube that he can't quite get in front of a crowd of reporters. It's really quite gripping, but there's no room to let that madness shine in like a tutorial. So I need to make content that lets me be more of my unhinged self. What is next for the IzPrebuilt channel? Well, we have an expansion in games that I want to do. I would love to introduce State of Decay 3. It doesn't have a huge player base, but it's actually relatively a low competition niche, so you can kind of get a lot of views, even though the player base is smaller because There's just less people making content on it. But maybe State of Decay 3 will bring the game to new heights. Who knows? I'd love it to. It would be really nice. Valheim is a game with a huge audience, and I have some fantastically performing videos on it. I've just been avoiding it because honestly, playing the first 5 hours is really boring and I'm kind of lazy. And then there's of course Ark Survival Evolved. I would consider, but I refuse to touch Ascended because it's shit. And also, the Survival Evolved game itself is 40 more billion gigabytes even with all the DLC installed, so I'm kind of resistant to that, but it would be a very smart choice. So would Rust. I'm not playing Rust, fuck off. And as for the other aspect of it, my plan is to carefully and deliberately and persistently introduce less information-driven content. Not completely switch over in a moment, but just introduce it alongside my informational content to work on my skills on, you know, talking about things that aren't educational, to improve my speaking skills on things that aren't meant to be raw information given as efficiently as possible. So yeah, there are some big plans for the future of the channel. Oh, and by the way, we're basically 5 months into the year, 5 months and 5 days, and we are halfway to the 100k goal from 80k to 100k. In the next couple of days anyway, we will be hitting 90k, which means we're like a month ahead of schedule on that. We've been doing pretty well on the 100k goal, and I think everything going to plan, we should be able to hit 100k by the end of the year. Regardless of what happens, I hope you enjoyed this look behind the curtain. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.